So I asked just Alex a question during his Q&A yesterday, where I asked him, out of all the talent on the TNA roster, who would he think WWE should sign, and for what brand and roster on their end of the spectrum? And he gave only two names. One that automatically we know of that WWE has pretty much made it very clear that they're keeping an eye on is Jordynne Grace. And we know that tonight, she's defending the Knockouts Championship in an open challenge and has hinted at the fact that the opponent could be somebody from WWE. And the obvious name floating around is NXT's Tatum Paxton. Now, Tatum Paxton, the reason her name's being floated about is because if you saw what she tried to do towards the end of the match between Grace and Perez at Battleground, her character is obviously somebody that's obsessed with gold. That basically gold is what she considers her best friend. And that it don't matter what kind of gold it is, when it relates to the women's division, she's got to have it. She's got to, be close to it, which is why she falsified a friendship with Lyra Valkyrie, because Lyra had the NXT Women's Championship, and now she's trying to associate herself, obviously, with Roxanne, maybe what's her name, Karina Jordan, the new Women's North American Champion. She's trying to associate herself with anybody that she feels has the, basically the right chance to become a champion. And a lot of people are saying that her name is the one that's going to be pretty much revealed tonight as the challenger for the Knockouts title because of that reasoning, and to also continue what we saw at the end of the, or at least towards the conclusion of the end of the Grace Perez match. At Battleground to kind of continue that storyline. But then again, you have Ash by Elegance, formerly Dana Brooke, going to probably play a role in that too. But so we'll see what happens. We'll see what occurs. But yeah, a lot of people are saying that Tatum would more than likely be the one to answer the open challenge tonight at Against All Odds. And then, of course, there is the speculation that you're going to get some TNA names in the 25-man Battle Royal next Tuesday to see who will face Trick Williams for the NXT Championship at Heatwave. But with that said, Alex, getting back to what I was saying, basically, said Jordynne Grace, without a shadow of a doubt, should be the one that they sign, and that she should be assigned to the SmackDown Women's Division because SmackDown needs her. And if SmackDown is going to be on USA, then yeah, more than likely they would need her. The only issue with signing her right now is her contract is not up until mid next year, unless they can work something out, negotiable wise, if you will, between both companies. But that was one name he gave. The other name he gave was the TNA World Champion Moose, basically stating that Moose would be a name he can go with. He didn't state like what brand, but I would think more than likely he would end up on Raw. Moose is a Raw fit in my opinion. But who else could they sign? Like who else would WWE sign from TNA once their contracts are up? Because the one thing a lot of people are saying about this TNA WWE NXT partnership is it's more about WWE than anything else. Like, they'll be equal in presentation. They'll be equal in, kind of giving TNA and all the other future partners the spotlight and showcasing their talent. But that at the end of the day, it's all about WWE not only giving those talents for those promotions the spotlight along with the promotion, but also potentially showcasing to the world, hey, these talents might be with us soon full-time or semi-full-time. But what other talents would they sign outside of those two? Well, I think on the women's side, you obviously have to have Rosemary. You got to get Rosemary in there one way or another. Maybe both her and Jessica Havoc, Decay as a team, as a unit. You got to get them, on board. I think that's obvious. I think Jonathan Gresham, whether he brings this new darker bipolar multi-personality thing he's doing, with him or not. I think Jonathan Grisham has to be one they get. And I think, with Rosemary, Havoc, and Grisham, I think for Rosemary and Havoc, I think a brief run in NXT would do them good. But I think obviously you got to put them on SmackDown. Put them on SmackDown, or heck, even put them on Raw. Put them on Raw since it's going to have a little bit more free reign going forward once it hits Netflix. So I think going on Raw would probably be beneficial for Jessica Havoc and Rosemary DK as a unit and individually. Grisham, I think, could spend some time in NXT for a bit, but I think after that brief period, he's got to go to SmackDown. He'll be beneficial on SmackDown, and I think people would enjoy seeing him there, especially if you're keeping Cody there, and you're keeping, Logan Paul there and LA Knight. I mean, the matches, are endless, and heck, you could do him and Randy Orton. I think people would love that too. Who else do I think they could bring in? I'm trying to think. Well, obviously, the scene what the Nemeth brothers are doing right now, so they might consider bringing back in Nick and bringing his brother in Ryan, or at least bringing Ryan in as a sort of a thank you to Nick Dolph with you for all his years of service with the company. So I could see Ryan Nemeth coming in as Ryan Ziegler. I could see that. Who else do I think could benefit from possibly and I could see Ryan Nemeth ending up on NXT for a while before he gets called up to the main roster. Who else do I think they could get? I think one big name that fans would love to see, and you could reunite him with Ethan Page as the North, would be Josh Alexander. And I think Josh coming in, put him on NXT for a while, team him back up with Ethan, give him a run with the NXT tag titles, give Josh maybe a run with either the North American or the world title. Maybe even take a page out of what they did with DIY years ago, to where both, Gargano and Ciampa had the singles titles, but they were still a team. You could do the same thing here. You could have, Alexander and Page, be the North, but they could also win the singles gold. Like Page could be the North American champion, and you can have Alexander be the world champion, and that would work. And the storyline just builds itself from there. So I think Alexander is a name they should look into very soon. Mike Bailey, I think, would be perfect for NXT. And then you can bring him up to, I would say, SmackDown. Alexander, getting back to him, I think when you bring him in, you give him his time in NXT, teaming with Page and against Page. I think Raw would be perfect for Alexander, and as a team, I think Raw would be perfect for both Page and Alexander. So there you go there. And then, like I said, Speedball Mike Bailey, I think would be perfect for NXT for a long run there. And then I could see him going to SmackDown. Ryan Nemeth, or Ryan Ziegler, if they call him that, I could see him, being in NXT for a while, and then I could see him maybe being called up to, I would say, SmackDown. I think SmackDown, when it comes to some of the TNA talent that would get signed, over to WWE in the next year or so, depending on how long this partnership goes, I could see SmackDown really benefiting from a lot of, their talent. Like, for example, Tasha Steelz. Tasha Steelz has a lot of personality. She definitely has the kind of personality that fits with the women's division now, especially with them becoming a little bit more mature, a little bit more edgier, like they used to be. I could see Tasha Steelz being in NXT for a while. I could see her associating with this Jada girl. I think that's her name, the Jada girl, the Jada Parker. I could see her associating with that, with her. And then I could see Tasha maybe benefiting from going to Raw, because if Raw is going to be on Netflix and have a little bit more freedom in what they can showcase, then I think, her being on Raw would be the benefit for her in the long run. So I think Tasha Steelz is one that they should look into, give her a brief NXT run, and then give her, a shot, on Monday Night Raw. I think it would be really beneficial for her. And then, of course, associated with her with someone like Jada Parker, game over. I know it's a cliche to say, but game over as far as like, over the top, getting over heel or face with the crowd tandem. That would be one of them. There'd be no doubt. That would be one of them. Another one I could see, and this is a big one as far as like JD from NY206 of Off the Script and Jason Solomon, the Solomonster or Solomonster Sounds Off, both work as commentators, for House of Glory, Hog Wrestling. Solomonster also the commissioner, if you will. I could see, someone that they want to see part of this crossover get signed by WWE, and that's Mike Santana. Mike Santana is obviously killing it as a singles wrestler. A lot of people know him for his time as part of one half of LAX, but now he's just killing it on his own. I could see Mike Santana being part of NXT for a while, maybe getting a run with the NXT Championship, but then I could see Mike Santana heading to Raw because, again, if you're going to have an edgier feel to that show, especially going to Netflix, Mike Santana, I think, would be perfectly fit for Monday Night Raw and that style. Who else do I think? Well, obviously, I think from a, just a stand-outish kind of perspective, I think they got to get Hammerstone. I don't know how long Hammerstone's contract with TNA is for, but obviously they got to get Hammerstone, bring him in, give him a run in NXT, and then take him, put him on SmackDown. And if you're going to keep Cody as the champion, or at least have him in, I guess, his second or third reign as champion, if that's the case, I think he'd be a perfect foil, perfect contender for Cody down the line. So I could see Hammerstone being signed in. I could see the ABC, Chris Bay, and Ace Austin being signed, put them in NXT, and I think afterwards you push them right up to SmackDown. You put them on SmackDown. You put them in the SmackDown Tag Team division. That'll be perfect. In my opinion, that'd be perfect for them. I could see, going back to Moose, I mentioned earlier, I could see his cohorts in the system right now. Like I could see Eddie Edwards being signed to NXT and then being put onto Monday Night Raw. And if they bring him in with his wife Alicia, she'd be a great addition to both the NXT Women's Division and the Raw Women's Division, I should say. And if you bring him in as a team with Myers, then I think that would be good too. You can have them just as the system. You could either have them associate with Moose, just like they're doing now, or not associate. But I definitely feel that individually and as a team, Edwards and Myers would be great additions to WWE. Myers, of course, has been there. He knows what it's like. So I think obviously he would be, a great re-addition, a great welcome home addition, if you will. And then, of course, with Edwards and Lissa, the system, I think they'd be great as a tag team and individually as well. So I could definitely go with those guys being signed in and, again, having time in NXT, but then getting a shot on Monday Night Raw. I would say the same for Alicia's current tag team partner. That's, Masha Slamovich. Everybody knows and has seen her match with Shayna Baszler at GCW Bloodsport this year during WrestleMania weekend. I think that was done not just because, hey, they want to show this is a new era in WWE, things are different, and so on. But also I think they were doing that to scout Masha. And depending on how long her contract's up, I think Slamovich would be a great addition to NXT, and then you bring her right over to SmackDown. I mean, here's the thing. I would love for her to be on Raw, kind of connect back to her match with, Shayna, but I think you need to put her on SmackDown. You need to put her on SmackDown after a brief run in NXT. So I think Slamovich would be perfect. I think she'd be perfect on SmackDown after a brief run in NXT. And if you continue having her team up with Killer Kelly as MK Ultra, same thing. Kelly would be a great addition along with her, as an individual talent and together as MK Ultra. And then I think, obviously, you bring them on over to the SmackDown tag team scene, mostly for the women, individually and together. So I could see Slamovich and Kelly going to SmackDown after a brief run in NXT once WWE gets a hold of them. The other team that obviously is kind of in flux right now, we don't know whether they're going to be all elite or they're just going to run roughshod on the indies for a while. That's the Motor City Machine Guns. It sounds like all signs are pointing to them being all elite, but if they decide to get a better offer and go to WWE, then I could see them having a brief run in NXT, and then I see them going right to Monday Night Raw. I think they'd be a great fit on Monday Night Raw. They could be their answer. They could be Raw's answer to DIY. So I could see MCMG heading to Monday Night Raw after a brief run in NXT. I could see that. Who else? PCO, obviously everybody knows him as Pierre Goulet, or whatever his name was in WWE. It's the Pirate Jean-Paul Goulet, and of course the Quebecer. PCO, obviously he's getting older. He's not going to be doing this for much longer, but his PCO character is over. So I think giving him a run in WWE would be perfect. I think he would be one of those exceptions to where you don't put him on NXT, but you put him on either Raw or SmackDown. He'll fit either way, in my opinion. But yeah, I think putting him on Raw would be great, because then you could either have him join the Judgment Day, or you can have him go against the Judgment Day. That to me would be awesome. We might even see him this Tuesday during the Battle Royal. Who knows? But I cannot honestly see him going to NXT. I think he'd be someone they would say, no, let's put him on the main roster right away, whether it's Raw, SmackDown. But yeah, PCO I think is another one. Who else do I think they could do? I'm trying to think. I think they could do Giselle Shaw. I mean, I know she's I think she's transgender, right? But I think, since they're under new management now with TKO, they'd be more accepting of it. So I think Giselle Shaw would be a perfect addition to the women's division in NXT, and then bring her up and put her on either Raw or SmackDown. And even, she's the kind of character that if, given the right, push, given the right direction, given the right push, given the right direction, she could be somebody that, they could tell the story of why she is who she is, why she did it, and, go from there. And WWE, especially under this new management and Triple H, know how to do that stuff, and they know how to do it correctly. So I think Giselle Shaw would be a great addition to that. Who else? Again, there's so many. I think Mustafa Ali, I don't know what his contract status is. I don't think he really has a contract. He's more like in a handshake deal or something. But yeah, obviously he's going to be going back to WWE, and I think once he goes back, you put him right on SmackDown, and you basically launch him. You put Mustafa Ali back on SmackDown once you re-sign him. You let him keep the gimmick he's got going right now, and you launch him. You put him on SmackDown. You launch him at Cody Rhodes if Cody is still champion, because now you have a Mustafa Ali that you can believably say, hey, this guy can be the world champion, and he'd be a very Swami-like world champion, WWE champion that people want to see get his, comeuppance. So I would say Mustafa Ali. Get him back under contract, send him to SmackDown, send him right for Cody. That's just my opinion. Who else? Who else do I think they could sign? They got a lot of talent. They do have a lot of talent. I think. I think I know two. I definitely think I know two. I think you got to get Diener, you got to get Cody Diener, and you got to get Jake something. You got to bring them in individually and as a unit. And again, just like a TNA is doing right now, you could tell the story of the fact that they are cousins, that they used to be, together as a team. They went their separate ways. There was a rift, and now, they're trying to patch things up. You could really play upon that even more so in WWE than TNA. And Jake Sumpton obviously could definitely benefit from time in NXT, and so could Diener. But I could definitely see their time in NXT individually and as a unit not being too long, and then I could see them, individually and as a unit going to Monday Night Raw. That's just my opinion. But yeah, Diener and something I think would be perfect fits for Monday Night Raw after a brief stay in NXT. Who else is there? Let's see. You got the Spitfire tag team, I think. Yeah, that Spitfire tag team. I don't know how long their contracts are for, but I definitely think you sign them, you put them in NXT for a while, and then you put them onto SmackDown. I feel that they would fit the SmackDown and they would fit the SmackDown roster more so than Raw after a brief stay in NXT. I think one of them, his name is Luna, right? Her name's Luna, Dana Luna, something like that. Definitely, like I said, sign them, put them on NXT for a while, then send them to SmackDown. That would just be my opinion. That'd just be my opinion. But yeah, those are just some of the names. I'm trying to think of more. Obviously, I'm trying to think of more that they could. I mean, obviously, they're keeping their eyes on Matt Hardy. And if they want to bring him back, I'd say bring him back. Bring back, Jeff, if you want to bring him back now since he's a free agent. Reunite the Hardys, but let them be the Hardys. Let them be the broken Hardys that they were not meant to be. That they were kind of, I wouldn't say not meant to be, but they were basically held back from being in WWE. Let them be those Hardys and really just go all out, if you will, with what they can do. Just go all out. I mean, yeah, not a lot of people are going to be fans of the whole Hardy compound situation and all that, but to me, I think honestly, the most entertaining and fun fans had with Matt, doing this was with WWE when he did that compound match with the late Bray Wyatt. I think that was probably the best, usage of that in a while, especially under a PG label. I think that was one of the best usages. And, of course, TNA recently put up the whole event of total nonstop deletion showing that, yeah, they used to do the same thing because they basically had the same guy that, was behind the scenes that helped make the Wyatt-Hardy compound match what it was, that being Jeremy Borash. They had him helping with the total nonstop deletion event as well as the other broken mat segments and matches that took place. So I would say if they want to bring them in, give them one last run before they wrap up their careers. Let them come in as the Broken Hardys. Let them get as creative as they want to be, in which they were held back from doing. And also, don't have Matt be Woken Matt. No. I mean, that was Broken Matt, but they just couldn't use the name. Let him be Broken. Now that they're in a partnership with TNA, let him be Broken Matt. Let him be broken. So to me, I think they need to do that. Give him one last run, especially with the fact that Jeff's in a situation right now to where he can't really go anywhere without somebody watching him because of his house arrest and all that. So I think, you bring Jeff in, being with WWE would definitely be a big help as well, because they're more like, hey, we're more responsible. We're more like, we're going to keep an eye on things. We're going to help out now, especially under new management. So I think bring them in, give them one last run as the Broken Hardys, and let the fun obviously begin, in my opinion. But yeah, that's really all I could say on who I think they should sign to WWE when the opportunity presents itself because of this partnership with TNA. Because again, this partnership is not just to benefit TNA, give them more exposure. Really let people know, hey, there are other companies out there with people that eventually you will see in WWE or that you have seen in WWE competing there now. So, yeah, again, these are just, like I said, names that I think they could sign and all that because, again, as I was trying to say before I lost my train of thought there, these are names that, again, they're saying, hey, you could potentially see in our company full time, as well as you get to see names that were in our company full-time working for them, and it's a win-win for everybody, but it's also more so a win for them because, hey, they're looking at future talent they can bring in full-time under contract. But anyway, though, that's just my thoughts. Who do you think they should sign from TNA based on this partnership and all that? Do you agree with some of my, suggestions and who I think they should sign and who I think who I think they should. So I'm trying to find the right word to say. Do you agree? I'm not trying to lose my train of thought and get tongue-tied here. But do you agree with some of the names I suggested and where I think they should assign them after maybe a run in NXT? What are your thoughts? Comment down below. Like Chat Donut Premier. Like the video. And until then, I am out.